Day 3 of Green Bay Packers training camp is here, and we have a bunch to talk about, including 2 new roster signings, a player coming off the PUP, and of course, all of our practice highlights, including 2 11v11 clips I have from yesterday, with Matthew Golden continuing to be a star throughout training camp thus far. Now, if you guys want to stay in the loop with everything Green Bay Packers during this training camp and then into the season, I would highly suggest going down and clicking that subscribe button. We post videos like this every single day of training camp that is open to the media, going over injuries, going over practice highlights, practice updates, roster news, everything in between. So you'll stay up to date every single day of training camp by going down, clicking subscribe, and of course, turning on post notifications. And of course, welcome into all the new viewers and subscribers. Hope you enjoy the video. So to kick things off, of course, this is day 3 of Green Bay Packers training camp, and as we know, they're scheduled to have off tomorrow. Matt LaFleur said it's a day where him and coaching staff will be scripting upcoming practices, and Sunday's practice will be in shells, and full pads will be strapped on for the first time this coming Monday. So this is kind of just that introductory period, 3 days of practice, then an off day, then you're in shells on Sunday, and then the full pads on Monday, where we really start to be able to break down not only offensive and defensive line play, because it's really hard to digest that, without pads on, pass rush and pass blocking. But not only that, we're going to see some 1v1s, Matthew Golden versus the cornerbacks, Christian Watson versus some of the cornerbacks. Really excited to see those. Those are one of my favorite parts of camp, and hopefully we should get a good amount of clips from that as well. So again, make sure to click subscribe and turn on post notifications. So there was a couple signings after practice yesterday. The Packers signing a wide receiver and also a long snapper. Matt Orzech has been on the PUP with a calf issue that's kind of been bugging him, and the Packers don't have a long snapper in practice, so they can't really practice punting and kicking as they usually would. So they kind of had to address this. But first, let's go over the wide receiver signing really quickly. Yesterday, the Packers signed former UFL champion Louisville Kings wide receiver Caden Prather to a 1-year deal, a former Bills 7th round player, and the corresponding move was releasing wide receiver Brendan Rice, who we saw drop out of practice yesterday. Wasn't practicing yesterday with a hamstring issue, so clearly the Packers saying, hey, we're moving on, bringing a new wide receiver in with a similar build, honestly. Caden Prather, being a 6'3", 210-pound wide receiver, was a 2-year player at West Virginia and then transferred to Maryland, where he started to see, mainly some starting reps there. He had 666 yards in 2023, and in 2024, 620 yards and 4 touchdowns, which got him to be a 7th-round pick to the Bills back in 2025. Now, the long snapper signing was Cal Adamitis, one of the top long snappers coming out of the 2022 draft. Adamitis spent 3 years with the Cincinnati Bengals and then played some snaps in Philadelphia last year before being waived in the month of December. And honestly, looking at Adamitis and what he was able to do at the University of Pittsburgh as a long snapper, I am intrigued with him coming into the building and maybe even winning that job over Matt Orzech. We'll see what happens. I know Orzech did just sign a contract extension, but anything can happen. Now, the corresponding move to signing Cal Adamitis was actually releasing kicker Lenny Krieg, who the Packers just signed 2 days ago. So it seems like Trey Smack has, at this point, already won the kicking competition without even really kicking. Now, of course, the biggest injury news in today's practice was, in fact, that Tucker Kraft has been activated off the PUP and has begun practicing. We heard on the first day and saw clips of Tucker Kraft practicing. You're like, this guy looks ready. Then we heard Tucker Kraft in the locker room say, I should probably be activated off the PUP soon. So great to see him activated already, day 3. Not gonna lie, not sure I expected that to happen this soon. I thought maybe week 2 of training camp. But hey, I'm happy for it. Now he just has to ease into things. LaFleur also said cornerback Kamal Haddon is close to getting activated off the PUP as well. And yesterday we got some news that Edgerrin Cooper kind of checked out of practice and was on the sideline. Well, no worries. Edgerrin Cooper was back at practice today and practicing. Guys, if you're into collecting football cards like I am, I want to take a quick second to talk to you about something very cool, and that's today's video sponsor, Courtyard. Courtyard is a platform that lets you vault graded sports cards and have them digitized so you can trade instantly worldwide without having to pack and ship the collectible every time it changes hands. And Courtyard has tons tons of different categories, including Pokemon cards, hockey cards, baseball cards, even watches, but most importantly, football cards, which is what I like to collect. Just to show you how this works, let's open up a football pro pack here on Courtyard. Here we go. Let's rip this pack open and see what we get. Go through this little animation here. And let's see, we get a Drake May, Donruss, rated rookie, graded at a 9 PSA. Now you have a couple options here when you open the pack. You can accept a buyback offer, which would then add funds directly back into your account if you don't want to keep the card. But this Drake May card, a rated rookie, just got to the Super Bowl. I'm going to keep it. Its market value is right now at $50.60. I think this card has good value. So now I have that Drake May card in my inventory, and I can either list it for sale, still accept that buyback, or I can even select to ship this card to me, and I will receive this exact graded card in hand. Slabbed, graded, vaulted, all one click away from your doorstep. Courtyard is pioneering the next generation of commerce through gamified shopping. So if you want to go check out Courtyard, go click the link down below, but make sure to use code BASS15 when signing up. All right, so now back into the video. Now let's dive down into the practice highlights we have from day 3. But first, I'm going to start with a couple clips I do have from day 2 during the 11v11 portion. Some exclusive clips for you guys here. First, we have Jordan Love firing across the middle on that dig route to Matthew Golden, who kind of has to go up and up behind him a little bit. But what I really like about this is the anticipation of this throw. Jordan Love anticipates Matthew Golden making his break, and it seems like they're really starting to get on the same page. And like we talked about yesterday, Matthew Golden had a great day of practice, and that continued today. We'll talk about it when we go over the practice notes, but man, the star of the offense throughout 3 days of training camp, it's close between him and Christian Watson, but I would put Matthew Golden at the top. He has been that impressive, and he's showing us why everyone's talking about him this offseason and why he might have a breakout year here in year 2. And as I mentioned, Christian Watson as well in this clip just catches a simple out route from Jordan Love, and he's been very impressive, him and Jordan Love in camp as well. They've just seemed to be on like really good timing, right? Seems easy for them to hit these easy, quick out routes, but a lot of the time the timing has to be perfect for this sort of thing, or else cornerback ends up jumping it, making a play on the football. Maybe you throw it too wide. Maybe you throw it too far to the inside. They've really been on par this training camp thus far. And both, him and Matthew Golden just been the top 2 guys for Love through camp so far. As I mentioned, Tucker Kraft is back. You can see him running around the practice field here. Now, of course, he didn't participate in team drills. He really only warmed up in the beginning, and then that's kind of it. Of course, don't expect Tucker Kraft to return to team drills right away. It might be week 3 when we finally start to see Kraft getting implemented into 11v11s with the pads on. Don't expect Monday to come around with the pads on and all of a sudden Tucker Kraft is back into the mix. But you can see him wearing a leg sleeve here, driving through this blocking drill. Again, he looks really good, and there's a reason he's activated up the PUP at 8.5 months post ACL surgery, because he's simply just put in the work. Now, we did briefly get to see Tucker Kraft catch some passes today, but it was just through warmups and I believe a coach just throwing him a football. So he didn't run any routes in warmups like we usually see the wide receivers or tight ends. Expect that to happen in the next couple of practices as they ease him through things. Of course, it's not a training camp video if it doesn't include Jordan Love firing a football over right into the net with pinpoint accuracy. Love has been really good through the first 3 days of training camp. And again, it's in part because he's on the same page with his top 2 wide receivers, with Christian Watson and also Matthew Golden. And let's not forget Jaden Reed as well. And once he gets Tucker Kraft back, man, the sky is a limit for this offense. The sky is a limit for Jordan Love. Really, in my opinion, it just comes down to how well can he be protected this year. Matt LaFleur before practice was even asked whether or not they're going to run the ball more this season. And he said, quote, "Do you want us to run the ball more? We're going to let Jordan Love cook." And obviously we love hearing that because that's what we've been waiting for. Just letting Jordan Love rip the football. A lot of the times we felt kind of handcuffed by the offense's style, like, hey, we need to establish the run game first. I think simply letting Jordan Love cook is the way to go, and letting him dish the ball out to his wide receivers and letting the running game be a complement to that. And if that is the case, I think Jordan Love can lead the league in touchdown passes this year if they truly let him cook. And thanks to today's video sponsor, PrizePicks, on the team picks portion of the app, you can select Jordan Love leading passing touchdowns leader. And when we checked this a couple months ago, he was like tied for first, then second. He's dropped way down, and his multiplier right now is 16.66 times. I think that's a very, very good multiplier for someone like Jordan Love, who somehow is below Jalen Hurts for passing touchdowns. There's no better time than now to get in on this for Jordan Love, because I do see an MVP style season here in 2026. Make sure to go check out PrizePicks with the link down below. Make sure to use code HMA when signing up. Make sure to always gamble responsibly, never outside of your means. But if you do, check them out down below. Here we got our first look at new Packers wide receiver Caden Prather wearing the number 89. I believe that was the same number Brennan Rice was wearing, so he got the boot and instantly his jersey given to Caden Prather. Just another body to have in that wide receiver room. But one thing is for certain, J. Michael Sturdivant is definitely making his name known. Now, he does have a couple drops, and we'll talk about that here when we go over the practice notes. But in terms of a guy that maybe has a chance to make the roster as like one of these, back end wide receivers on the roster, J. Michael Sturdivant's looked great so far. Here we have new Packers wide receiver free agent Sky Moore from the offseason catching an out route pass during warmups. And I believe Matt LaFleur said yesterday he's intrigued with what Sky Moore can do, not only as a returner, but maybe someone in the backfield, kind of using him in the backfield with Savion Williams in different ways. So it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him on the offense, if at all, and how that works. And then finally, we just have a fun clip of both Zaire Franklin and Edgerrin Cooper to give you proof that Edgerrin Cooper was back at practice today, which is great to hear. Of course, these two guys are going to be, the internal backbone of this defense, with Zaire playing that Mike position, relaying the plays out to the rest of the defense, communicating everything, and then Edgerrin Cooper just being the all-around athlete in the middle of the field, sideline to sideline, pass rusher, in coverage, everything all over the field. All right, so now let's pivot into our training camp notes. And again, huge shout out to all the beat reporters, content creators, everyone that's at Packers training camp relaying this information. I'm going to put all their links down in the description below. Definitely go make sure to check them out. Shoot them a follow as well. So let's just dive into this thing. The starting lineup for today was Love, Jacobs, Watson, Golden. No surprise there. Josh Wiley, Drake Dabney as the two tight ends. And the offensive line was the same. Morgan, Monk, Ryan, Belton. Now, I know Aaron Banks did do a little bit more in practice today, so I think soon we'll see him warm up with the first team at left guard, maybe when the pads come on or a couple days into when the pads come on. In terms of the defensive line, a little bit of a mix-up here because a nickel look, and it's Sorrell, Stackhouse, Brooks, and LVN. So we see Stackhouse getting some first-team reps out of the nickel at that nose tackle spot. Coop and Zaire at linebackers. Nixon, Valentine still starting at outside boundary cornerbacks, and they had a really good day today. Javon Bullard in the nickel, and the same, of course, at safeties with X and Williams. Now, this update I found very, very interesting. Nixon came free on a cornerback blitz on the right side, and Gannon was very happy. So it seems like already we're seeing a lot of unique pressure packages from Jonathan Gannon. We've talked about it the past couple of days with Edgerrin Cooper coming off on the edge a couple times. Now we're starting to see some boundary cornerback blitzes, which I think is something that if you can time it right, it can be a very, very big play for your defense. So I'm glad Gannon's kind of mixing it up, seeing what he can do, and it's not just, hey, we're going to drop into our basic coverages and see what happens, because you got to create action, you got to create turnovers, and a good way to do that is by sending pressure. Now, like I said, J. Michael Sturdivant had a really nice day of practice after having a pretty brutal drop in yesterday's practice. So this starts off with Tyrod Taylor in this drive, the second team finding Savion Williams on an out route. Then finds J. Michael Sturdivant over the middle for a big chunk, and then another completion from Tyrod Taylor to J. Michael Sturdivant over the middle for like about 30 yards. So Sturdivant making his name known. Now, he did end today's practice with yet another drop, an easy drop on a slant route, so something he's definitely got to clean up, but he has impressed so far. Some more notes here we have is Deni Dennis Sutton with a nice pressure inside versus John Williams and Donovan Jennings. That's been a recurring theme. Not only Deni Dennis Sutton, but other edge rushers being kicked inside to create pressure out of the inside of that defensive line, which I really like to see. And I think someone like Lucas Van Ness, Deni Dennis Sutton, two players that are capable in the run game as well, gives you that versatility. So really nice to see Jonathan Gannon utilizing them that way. And then also John Baldwin off the edge, untouched for a sack on Tyrod Taylor. So again, defensive backs coming after the quarterback. This one would have been out of the nickel spot. Baldwin's been nickel corner number 2, and he's been very impressive throughout camp so far. Really making a name for himself, saying, hey, you need to keep me on this roster as a versatile piece. Now, like I mentioned, yesterday was a great day of practice for Matthew Golden, and it was yet again here in day 3. Here we see Matthew Golden just skied to a catch, a Jordan Love pass between Xavier McKinney and Zaire Franklin in the middle of the field for 18 yards. Best catch of camp so far Golden has up. So I'm hoping at some point I'll get this clip. We'll see what happens. We'll get plenty of more Matthew Golden clips, I'm sure, throughout the rest of training camp, but he's been on fire. Now, the two starting cornerbacks, Carrington Valentine and primarily Keyshawn Nixon, had very good days of practice. Keyshawn Nixon had a pressure to force an incompletion in the first team period. We already talked about that. But then also a pair of pass breakups in the end of half drill to get a defensive stop, blanketed Christian Watson downfield in a sideline fade, and then shut down Sky Moore on a 3rd and 10 to the middle. He was flying around today. Some more notes, we have McClellan getting some reps with the ones, and also John Ford for the first time getting some reps with the ones today on defense. McClellan had an immediate run stuff on Josh Jacobs for no gain, so nice to see the rookie getting some action in the run game. Bullard with a pass breakup on Jaden Reed. Again, Valentine with a pass breakups along the sideline to Matthew Golden. Really nice job by the defensive backs in today's practice, not only breaking up passes, but rushing the passer. And it was Valentine and Nixon with the first team pretty much all day. So not like the other 2 days where we saw a heavy mix of Cisse and St. Juste. Mainly today, it was Nixon and Valentine because they had a good day of practice. But Benjamin St. Juste definitely made his name known towards the end of practice. Jumped a Tyrod Taylor out route, thrown to Savion Williams on the right sideline, picked it off, and went the other way for 6. So that's kind of 2 practices in a row, with pretty much ending with a Tyrod Taylor interception. So something to monitor going forward, but I love to see this from St. Juste. And then finally, to actually end practice, the first team offense came back on. Watson lined up in a tight stack on the left side, sprints across and flares outright, catches a play action flip for a 9-yard touchdown, was pretty much wide open. And then to end practice, yet another touchdown for Christian Watson. So like I said, both him and Matthew Golden right now are like neck and neck for the players of training camp thus far on the offense. So those are all the updates, the highlights, and practice notes we have from day 3 of Green Bay Packers training camp. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like we mentioned, the Packers are off tomorrow, just some coaching things going on, so no practice videos or highlights tomorrow, but we'll be back at it on Sunday when they're in shells. And then, of course, the main one we're looking out for is Monday when the pads come on. So again, be sure to be on the lookout for more videos released here on this channel. Leave a like down below if you did enjoy the video. Help support the channel a ton. Appreciate you guys for stopping by. I'll catch you on Sunday, and as always, go Pack Go.